All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're decoding the master plan for what is, without a doubt, one of the toughest intellectual challenges on the entire planet, the Indian Civil Services Examination. We're not just going to look at what's on the test. Nope. We're going to lay out the strategic roadmap from the moment you fill out that first form all the way to seeing your name on that final list.
Okay, so first things first, you've got to stop thinking of this as just an exam. It's really more like a three-stage expedition, a carefully planned climb up a massive mountain. Each stage is its own base camp with its own set of challenges, all leading you to that final peak.
You know, the whole process is basically a giant high-stakes funnel. Stage 1 is all about screening. They have to sift through hundreds of thousands of people to find a smaller group. Then Stage 2 is where the real selection happens, where your writing chops are seriously put to the test. And finally, Stage 3 is where they assess you, the person. But here's the key thing to remember. Only Stages 2 and 3 actually decide your final rank.
So let's talk about that first huge hurdle, the preliminary examination. People call it the Great Filter for a very, very good reason. For pretty much everyone, this is where the real journey begins.
On the surface, the specs are pretty straightforward. The prelims, as everyone calls it, is just 2 multiple-choice papers. Each one is 2 hours long and is worth 200 marks, so it's a 400-mark screening test. But don't let that simplicity fool you. Its efficiency in filtering people out is absolutely brutal.
Now you've got to get this, because it's probably the most critical rule of this entire stage. No matter how brilliantly you score here, these marks just disappear the second you qualify. Seriously. This stage has one job and one job only, to get you a ticket to the main event. It's nothing more than a qualification gate.
And before you even start bubbling in answers, you have to understand the rules of engagement. For every single wrong answer, you don't just get a 0. Oh no, you get a penalty. Minus 1/3 of the marks for that question. It's a system that's literally designed to reward confidence and punish wild guessing.
And you have got to watch out for what I call the double dip trap. If you mark more than one bubble for a single question, it's an automatic wrong answer, and boom, you get hit with that negative marking. It doesn't even matter if one of your choices was the right one. The system demands absolute, total precision.
This brings up a really crucial strategy, the safety valve. Look, if you're not sure about a question, leaving it blank is often the smartest play. You get 0 marks for it, sure, but you completely avoid that painful penalty. You have to think of it like making a strategic retreat so you can win the war.
And there's one more layer here. Paper 2, which is the Civil Services Aptitude Test, or CSAT, is kind of like a gatekeeper within the gate. You have to score at least 33% on this paper. If you don't, your paper 1, the one that actually decides the cutoff, won't even get looked at. So yeah, you have to clear this hurdle first, no matter what.
All right, so you've made it through the Great Filter. Now you're in the heart of the competition, the main examination. This is where the real marathon starts, and from this point on, every single mark you score is going to count towards that final rank.
The structure here is absolutely fundamental. You're looking at 9 papers in total, but believe me, they are not all created equal. They're split into 2 very different groups. 2 qualifying papers and 7 merit papers, and understanding that difference is key to your whole strategy.
This 2-step process is so important. Think of the language papers as gatekeepers. If you don't pass them, the examiners literally will not even look at your other 7 papers. Your entire effort, all those hours studying for the merit papers, it just becomes null and void.
And here's what that gate looks like. The 2 papers are an Indian language paper and an English paper. The 25% rule is completely non-negotiable. You have to get at least 25% in each of them to move on. It's a basic proficiency check that, believe it or not, trips up a lot of people who aren't paying attention.
So once you're past those gatekeepers, you get to what I call the merit engine. These are the 5 compulsory papers that absolutely everyone has to take. There's one on essay writing and then 4 really comprehensive general studies papers that cover, well, everything. History, governance, ethics, security, you name it. And each one is worth a massive 250 marks. And then comes the big strategic decision, the variable. You get to choose one optional subject from a huge list, and that one subject gets you 2 full papers, worth a total of 500 marks. This is your chance to play to your strengths, to leverage your own expertise to get a real edge on the competition. Choosing the right optional is an absolute game changer.
Okay, so you've proven your knowledge on paper. You've written thousands of words. Now we get to the final stage, This is where the commission wants to meet the actual person behind all those answers. Welcome to the personality test, the final frontier.
Let's be really clear about what this is and what it isn't. It's not some kind of rapid-fire interrogation. The official term is a directed and purposive conversation, and the goal is pretty simple. They just want to see if you have the personal suitability, the character, and the right temperament for a really demanding career in public service.
So what are they really looking for? Well, it's not about how many facts you can recite. They're trying to gauge things like your mental alertness, your moral integrity, your leadership potential, and your logical thinking. It's really a holistic look at your character when you're under a bit of pressure.
So, after this whole year-long journey, this gauntlet, how does it all add up? Let's break down the final math that decides whether you make the list, and just as importantly, where you land on it.
And here it is, the final calculation. It's the total of your 7 merit papers from the main examination, which comes to 1,750 marks, plus the 275 marks from your personality test. That one final score, out of a total of 2,025, is what determines everything: your rank, your service, your future.
You know, in an exam with this many people, it's pretty much guaranteed to happen. So, what do they do in the case of a tie? How do they possibly decide who gets the higher rank when every single spot is so critical?
Well, the system has a very clear protocol for this. First, they'll compare the marks you got in just the compulsory papers plus the interview. If it's still a tie, they'll look at the marks from only the compulsory papers. And if by some wild chance it's still a tie, the candidate who is older gets the higher rank. They've really thought of everything.
So, if we're going to sum up this whole blueprint, it really comes down to this. First, you survive the prelims by focusing on accuracy. Second, you secure your base by clearing those language papers. Third, you build your rank by scoring as high as you possibly can in those 7 merit papers. And finally, you demonstrate the traits they're looking for in the interview. It's a test not just of what you know, but of your strategy, your endurance, and your character, from the very beginning to the very end. Which really makes you wonder, is this blueprint just a map to a career, or is it a test designed to actually forge the very people who follow it?